For years, she stood in silence, behind iron bars, beneath the harsh sun, surrounded by noise, but consumed by loneliness. An elephant named Mare lived a life no animal should ever have to endure. Day after day, visitors came and went. Children pointed, cameras flashed, people paused for a moment, then moved on. To many, she was just another animal in a zoo. But behind her stillness was a story of loss, separation, grief, and survival. This is the story of Mare, an elephant who lost her freedom, lost her family, and for many years almost lost herself, until one extraordinary journey changed everything. Long before the city, long before the concrete walls and metal gates, Mare belonged to the wild. She was born under the open skies of Africa in a world shaped by movement, memory, and family. There, life was not lived alone. Elephants moved together, protected one another, and shared powerful emotional bonds that lasted a lifetime. Mothers guided their young, sisters stayed close. The herd was safety, comfort, and identity. As a calf, Mare knew that world intimately. She knew the warmth of walking beside her family. She knew the sound of low rumbles echoing through the earth. She knew the joy of muddy water, long journeys, and the unspoken protection of a herd that always stayed together. But that life was stolen from her. At a very young age, Mare and 3 other female elephants were taken from the wild. Torn away from their homeland and the families they depended on, they were transported far from everything they had ever known. Eventually, they arrived in Karachi. And there, their lives were divided once again. 2 of the elephants were sent to Karachi Safari Park. Mare and her sister, whom we will call Nazia, were taken to Karachi Zoo. That separation would last 15 years. Inside the zoo, life became painfully small. Instead of roaming wide landscapes, Mare lived in a confined enclosure. Instead of being surrounded by a herd, she had only one companion, her sister. Instead of living according to the rhythms of nature, her days became repetitive, restricted, and emotionally empty. Still, as long as Nazia was beside her, Mare was not entirely alone. The 2 sisters shared every day together. In a place where so much had been taken from them, they remained each other's only comfort. They stood side by side, moved side by side, and endured captivity together. But the conditions around them were deeply inadequate. They needed better food, they needed enrichment, they needed proper medical care. Years of poor keeping had taken a visible toll on their health. Their bodies showed signs of suffering, and their environment offered little of what elephants truly need to live healthy and emotionally stable lives. Elephants are highly intelligent and deeply social beings. They do not simply survive on food and shelter. They need movement, they need stimulation, and above all, they need connection. Then came another tragedy. In 2023, after years of inappropriate keeping, Nazia died. For Mare, the loss was devastating. Her sister had been her only constant companion for 15 years. In a place already marked by confinement and emotional deprivation, that bond had been the one thing keeping complete loneliness at bay. And then, suddenly, it was gone. After Nazia's death, Mare was left in solitary confinement. The enclosure did not change physically, but emotionally, everything changed. The silence became heavier, the emptiness became sharper, the absence of companionship began to affect every part of her well-being. She began showing visible signs of distress. She swayed her head again and again. She paced. She repeated the same movements endlessly. The loneliness had started to consume her. Among the few things she still clung to was an old tire. That tire became her only source of comfort, her only familiar object in a life stripped of companionship. She played with it constantly, carried it, leaned on it, stayed close to it. To many, it may have looked like a simple object, but to Mare, it had become a substitute for the emotional bond she had lost. This was no life for an elephant, and those who understood her suffering knew that something had to change. Back in 2021, animal welfare experts had been asked to assess the 4 remaining elephants in Pakistan. Their findings revealed urgent welfare concerns. The elephants needed better diets, medical attention, and species-appropriate care. Authorities and welfare teams began working together to improve their condition and provide treatment. But after the death of her sister, it became painfully clear that Mare needed more than medical care. She needed a new life. She needed to leave the zoo. And perhaps, after all those years, she needed the chance to be with her sisters again. At Karachi Safari Park, major changes were already being made to create a more natural and suitable environment for elephants. The aim was not simply to move Mare from one place to another. The aim was to give her a real chance at recovery, with more space, better care, natural surroundings, and the possibility of social reunification. But moving an elephant is an enormous challenge. It requires planning, infrastructure, veterinary supervision, trained handlers, and above all, trust. For Mare to be relocated safely, she first had to learn how to enter a transport crate calmly and voluntarily. That process would take time and patience and kindness. At first, Mare was unsure. The crate was unfamiliar, strange, something to be approached with caution. But her team and elephant experts worked with her gently, day after day, introducing the crate not as a threat, but as part of a positive routine. Treats were placed near the entrance, then inside. She was encouraged, never forced. She was allowed to explore at her own pace. Slowly, something remarkable began to happen. The same elephant who had spent years trapped in loneliness started showing curiosity again. The training gave her a purpose. It challenged her mind. It engaged her. What began as preparation for transport soon became an important form of emotional enrichment. The crate was no longer just a box. It became a doorway. With each passing day, Mare grew more confident. She stepped inside voluntarily. She stayed there longer. She began associating it with safety, rewards, and interaction. For an elephant whose world had become painfully empty, this was more than training. It was healing. Meanwhile, at Karachi Safari Park, preparations continued. A larger, more species-appropriate enclosure was being readied. There would be natural ground beneath her feet, a large pool for bathing, mud for cooling her skin, and room to move in ways she had not been able to for years. And nearby were the 2 sisters from whom she had been separated for 15 years. The hope was powerful, but careful. Because elephant reunions cannot be rushed, they must be handled with patience, observation, and respect for the animal's behavior and emotional needs. After more than a year of preparation, the day finally arrived. On the 26th of November 2024, Mare's journey began. The relocation was carefully planned down to the smallest detail. The convoy moved through the crowded streets of Karachi with support from local police, helping ensure a smooth and safe passage. For perhaps the first time in many years, Mare was leaving behind the place that had defined so much of her sorrow. Inside the transport crate, she traveled through the city towards a future no one could fully predict, but everyone hoped would finally bring her peace. When she arrived at Karachi Safari Park, she was released into her new enclosure and given a health assessment. Her responses were normal. She had made it safely. And then, after some time to settle, Mehr was allowed into her new outdoor environment. For the first time in years, she stepped into a space that offered more than confinement. There was earth beneath her feet. There was open air. There was room to move. There was water. There was mud. There was possibility. She began to explore with curiosity, carefully at first, quietly, taking in every scent, every sound, every change in texture. This was not the hard, empty enclosure she had known for so long. This place offered stimulation, comfort, and the beginning of something new. But the most important moment was still to come. In the coming days, Mehr and the other elephants were closely monitored to assess the possibility of safe socialization. Then, finally, the moment arrived. The gate was opened. Her sisters, whom we will call Safa and Lina, approached with curiosity. Mehr, still carrying the emotional habits of her lonely years, at first remained focused on her tire, the object that had comforted her through the darkest time of her life. Then, Safa took the first brave step. She entered Meher's side of the enclosure. Lina followed. And what happened next was unforgettable. The three sisters gently reached toward one another with their trunks, touching, smelling, exploring, recognizing. There was no violence, no panic, no rejection, only calm, only curiosity, only the quiet miracle of reunion. After 15 years apart, the sisters
Season. Well done, everyone. That went perfectly.
The elephants remembered something deeper than time, something carried not in words, but in scent, touch, and instinct. Then came another beautiful moment. Mehr offered her tire to her sisters. The very object that had once become her emotional lifeline in loneliness, she now shared freely. It was a small gesture, and yet it meant everything. Because now she no longer needed to rely on that object in the same way. She had what she had been missing all along. She had family. From that point forward, Meher's new life truly began. With her sisters beside her, she started to change. She explored more. She moved more freely. She spent time in the pool.
Look, they are finally here. Guide them straight ahead, slowly now. They look amazing.
But as part of a social group again. Her old patterns of distress no longer dominated every moment. The stereotypical behaviors caused by isolation began to ease. The emotional emptiness that had once defined her days gave way to interaction, stimulation, and companionship. For elephants, family is not optional. It is essential. They are deeply social animals who depend on strong bonds for emotional stability and well-being. To see Mehr among her sisters was not just touching, it was transformative. She was not simply surviving anymore. She was beginning to live. Her journey is a powerful reminder that rescue is about more than relocation. It is about dignity. It is about healing.
With visible curiosity, the relocated matriarch steps into her new home, exploring the rich soil
That matter profoundly. Meher's past cannot be undone. Nothing can erase the trauma of being taken from the wild. Nothing can return the years lost in captivity. Nothing can bring back the sister she lost in the zoo. But her future changed. And that change matters. Because compassion cannot rewrite the beginning of a story, but it can change the ending. Today, Mayher lives in a safer and more natural environment, side by side with her sisters she was separated from for 15 long years. She has space, she has care, she has enrichment, and most importantly, she is no longer alone. The elephant who once stood in sorrow behind iron bars now walks toward the water with her family near her side. The silence that once surrounded her has been replaced by presence. The loneliness that once shaped her every day has finally begun to fade. And after everything she endured, after all the years of loss, confinement, and waiting, Mayher has found what she needed most. Not performance, not pity, not survival alone, but belonging. This is the long road she traveled, from captivity to care, from grief to healing, from isolation to reunion. And for Mayher, that journey was nothing less than a second chance at life.